Hello everybody and welcome to Manny's Makings. This is what we're going to work on today. I posted this on Pinterest and people were interested in seeing how-to video. So this is a tutorial on how to do this. It's a top-down bail method like I did on the last tutorial that I did with wire weaving. So this just shows you it's a fun little, and this is only just 3¼ inches long total from the top of the bail. So it's actually quite small and with a nice collar length chain. It ends up hanging, so this is above the cleavage area, so it hangs quite nicely. And it reminds me of sort of an Elven pendant from that movie that I can't say. So today I actually did this opening video once and my camera ate it. So I'm just doing the opening part. The rest of it is still good. So you're going to need 20 gauge ParaWire and 26 gauge, not ParaWire, but just 20 gauge of any color you want. 26 gauge of any color you want. You're going to need 18 inches in length of 3 wires. You're going to need bent nose or flat nose pliers. You're going to need your wire straighteners, mostly for straightening the wire before you cut it, your nippers or your flush cutters, and your round nose pliers, definitely for sure. And I have some, this is Czech fire polish 3mm, and they're in the blue iris, and I'm going to use these as an accent bead. Now you probably see me holding this in my hand. I actually did the video, completed this already. So you need 3 different size beads. So you need, one is a 12mm, the other one's an 8mm, and this one is a 6mm. But you could use any size beads you want if you want to make it smaller. This one's only 3 inches. It's a little bit smaller than the other one. So they're all unique and different every time I make them. But it's the system that I want you to learn. So if you like these types of videos and you want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. All the materials needed are always under the Show More button on any of my videos, so you can always see if you want to make it for yourself. I welcome you using this style of wire weaving, no problem, and selling it and doing what you want, but please give me credit for the particular way I'm doing something, because this is unique. I really appreciate that. But other than that, get your materials together and I'll be right back and we can get started. Okay, I'm back. And just so you know, the entire project took me 2 wingspans, which is from one tip of my finger to the other tip of my finger of weaving wire total to do the project. That's how much I used, and I used all the little pieces to put the extra beads on and all that good stuff. So when you have a long length of wire, it gets really difficult to sort of work towards the middle, and we need to start this in the middle. So feel free to work it closer to one end, not all the way to the end, and then once you work part of it, you can scooch it down to the middle and make sure you have equal distances on either side. So what I'm going to do is just a simple weave. So I always start with bringing my tail around, bringing this up so that they're level with each other, holding on to the tail. 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 wraps. 3 wraps. Well, actually 4 with the tail, so we'll bring the tail down. Doo-doo. There we go. And now I'm going to add the wires slightly differently than normal. I'm going to add one to the bottom this time. And because my wire is coming from the top, I'm adding the bottom one first. And just leaving a little tiny bit of space so that it's not super tight. And I'm going to go 3 times around these 2 wires. And then I'm going to come up the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to be going up this way next. So I'm going to add the top wire. And I'm just sort of making sure that the ends are, equal. And I'm spacing these out, and then I'm going to go around the top. Let's get this curved a little bit. Top 2 wires 3 times. 1, 2. Come on, lay it flat. There you go. That's my 3rd one through the middle. And then I'm going to do 3 on the other side. So let me show you that much closer, okay? So those of you, let me zoom in even more. Oh, wrong way. Okay, that's about as tight as I can get it. So I have three, and the first 3 around the middle wire, then I did 3 around the 2 bottom, then 3 around the 2 on the top, and this is called the 3-3 weave. So, and 3 around this one. So let's spread my wires again, just a little bit. 1, 2, and that was number 3. And you can see the 3 wires laying beside each other. Then I come up in the middle, and I pull it tight, and then I bring my wire up and over and up and over the top 2 wires and up and over the next 2 wires, and then I bring it through the middle. Now you can see they're spaced out. You see how the weave's spaced out a bit? That's fine. And then when I push it together like that, it squishes in, and you can squish this in pretty good. And you can use your pliers, or you can use whatever you'd like. You need to work an inch of this. And you just keep going back and forth. Now, one of the things that this does, I don't know if you can see, but that middle one sort of sticks out. So one of the things I like to do as I go along is I just take it and I squish it flat so that it keeps it flat. Once I know that for sure I have everything tucked in. And then you just scooch it down. Now you might have to pull 1 wire at a time. See, I can pull that wire, it made it longer. Pull that wire, it's longer, see? And I move it to the middle, okay? You need to do 1 inch of this, just over 1 inch, with these 2 little 3-3. You finish it in the middle wire, wrapping the middle wire by itself 3 times when you're all done. So you'd bring this back up and then just wrap the middle wire, okay? So you bring it back up when you're, whatever side you're on when you're done, bring it back. And then come back and we'll go from there and make the bail. Okay, I'm back and I have just over 1 inch. I just finished with 1 at the bottom and then the 3 wraps around the middle there. Let's see if this will focus for me. There we go. So that, and I made sure I pushed it as I went along so it's really well compressed. The other thing is this particular weave, I already flattened it, but tends to want to sort of make a V. It tends to curl towards the front. So you can just take your nylon jaw pliers and give it a squeeze so that it's nice and flat. You want to have a flat piece. Okay, so I put it in the middle, or approximately in the middle. Let me just double check because I may have to move it again. Should have done this before I came back. Sorry about that. That's close enough. Okay. So now I just want to take whatever I'm going to wrap it around. I'm just using this. I don't want this massive bail. And I'm going to bring the 2 sides together. And I'm just pushing it around here and I'm bringing them together. Now the idea is to bring them together so that the weave matches. Okay, so that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so I got it so that the weave is matching on either side, and there's my little bail. Perfect. So what I did with the first one is I actually took, now you got a massive pile of wires. I took the wires and I made sure that I knew which ones were which. I made sure that they were in the right order, so that's what I'm doing now. So I have the top one, the middle one, and the bottom one, and then the top one, middle one, and bottom one. Okay, nope, that's the middle. There's the top. So I just wove them in each other. So this side here on my right is going below the stuff on my left. So my number 1 is going below number 1 on the other side. Number 2 is going below number 2 on the other side, and number 3 is going below number 3 on the other side. Okay, so then you have 3 new wires that are now coming forward from the other side, and the 3 old wires. So you have this. Okay. So when I take it, where it's going to be a bail, see how it turns it into a fun thing? So now that I have those wires the way I want them, I just got my finger in there to keep them separate. I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to flatten down my weaving wires right there. I'm going to flatten down where the 2 sides meet forward, to just flatten this straight down. And they're going to sort of intermingle with each other. And I want to bring this as close as I can together here. Make sure that everything is good and I'm happy with where the weave is sitting on here. Bringing it up so that I have it as tight as I can. And now I'm going to take this weaving wire and I'm going to go around 1, 2, 3 times. and then I'm going to tuck it through the bail top. And I have a fairly long length of weaving wire here. And I'm only doing that to just sort of semi-secure the top here, and it looks good anyways, so that's good too. So, and I'm pulling, making sure that's laying flat, as flat as I can, because I don't want anything sticking out. Okay. So then I took my wires, because I need to separate them, and I went like this. And I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of, so I have 1, 2, 3 in order here, 1, 2, 3 in order there, and I'm splitting them with each other. And then I'm making sure this bail is centered. And then I'm splitting them fairly equally. So I'm holding my bail sort of perpendicular, you know, straight up and down, so that it's not going anywhere, and I'm making sure these come out. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm holding it again, same thing, bringing out, oops, I brought out number 2 before I brought out number 1. Holy, I'm having trouble finding number 1 here. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So, and the idea is to bring them out beside each other. Now at this point, I'm going to get rid of this little piece of weaving wire that I started with. It's hanging out on the back here. I'm just going to cut it off. Make sure you don't cut your other weaving wire or any other wires. It's being persnickety. There we go. Okay. So I have a weaving wire, and this is what you're going to do over and over again, but in what you do with it is your choice. So I'm going to use this top wire. Let me pull back out of it. Okay, so this top wire is now going to become your decorative wire. The one that comes, this is the one here, and then it came down here. And then we're going to switch which one the top wire is at each junction, and then you'll have a new top wire that'll do the second part, and then a new top wire that'll do the bottom part, and so forth. So there's a pattern here that you're going to see. So what you have to do is take the top wire, get it out of the way, and what you do to one side, you're eventually going to have to do to the other side, but I'll explain that as I go. So you need to get this weaving wire from where it is to where it needs to be. So I'm going to wrap the top wire just once, just to move my weaving wire from the bail down to here. And now I need to do a weave. For me, I like the part of my weave that's tightest, that has less gapping in it, to be closest to my stone, and the piece that has holes in it, like, you know, where it bring it up to a point, bring it back down, bring it up to a point, and there's a hole there, I like that to be here. You can choose to do whatever you want. You can do a sumac, you could do whatever. I'm just going to do a 3 around the bottom, 3 here, and what you need to do is do enough to get around whatever size bead. These are all lampwork beads. Whoop, don't drop that. Beads are natural habitats of floor, so you have to be able to get around this bead. So you don't need a lot of weaving. Probably about that much. So when I get to that point, I'm going to bend and bend and bend and see where I'm at. So let me just show, for those of you who don't know, I'll zoom in a little bit. That was a zoom out. The weave I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to go 3 times around the bottom, and I'm tucking this. And if you have a big gap, don't hesitate to go more than 3 times around the bottom. If you need to fill a gap, you can just fill the gap with, you know, the 1 wire weave. So I'm pushing it up. I don't know if you can see, but it's actually sneaking up underneath here and filling that gap. So I'm going to go a couple more times because I didn't want to fill the gap. When I see the weave, see how it's showing up here? Just showing. I'm going to push in to make sure it's good. Okay, so it's just showing, which pretty close. Now I can actually start my pattern, because there's no point until then. And that's how you sort of fill those little holes and make it look really cool and professional. So 2, 3, And make sure these two wires are the right spacing apart. Move that one up more. And I don't stay still when I wire weave. I twist and turn, and with this length of wire, it's kind of interesting. So, and closer to the bale, it's a little harder, so just be slower and more patient with yourself. You're trying to get stuff into a smaller space, and you're trying to do it so it looks nice. So there's my two wires again, separate them out. And then I'm going to come up the middle and push and make sure this is all nice and tight in there. Straighten my wires so I'm happy. And then I'm going to go 3 times around the bottom. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to 3 times around the bottom, 3 times around both, 3 times around the bottom, 3 times around both, 3 times around the bottom, and repeat that until I have the length I need to go around my bead, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back, and I've got my weaving, and I've actually pushed this up pretty tight up to the top here, and then brought it around the bead. This is my bead here, so that I know that it sort of covers about half of the bead. So this is something that I do, and it'll have 2 wires or 3 wires inside, so don't worry, the security of the bead is like not a problem. I stick my bead on the wire. Oh yeah. So when I finished my weaving, I wrapped the 3 that was the closest to the bead here. So my weaving wire is coming out this way. Okay. And I'm going to stick it through. I'm just moving this out of the way, sticking my bead through the weaving wire. Ta-da, ta-da. Bringing it down. So you can use Swarovski crystals, you could use lampwork beads, special beads with this method of doing things, whatever you'd like. So now what I need to do is I need to secure it to the top. Now remember when we brought those wires over, see there's a nice little hole here? I'm going to stick that wire in that nice little hole. And what it's going to do is it's going to have this wire's on one side of it, and this wire, this other wire's on the other side of it. So it's going to secure it in place that way. If I can get a hold of it in this angle, there we go. So just do it gently. You're not trying to scrape your wire or anything. You want to make sure, I don't know if you saw that I made that a bigger loop so that it comes down nicely on the bead. Okay, so that pulls that in. See how I can pull that in pretty tightly? Alright, so I only have it once. I'm going to do it a second time in a minute. Remember, we have 3 wires on this side and we have this. I'm going to pretend this weaving wire is gone. It's gone through once. I'm going to use the weaving wire on this side now, and I'm moving this one out of the way. My decorative wire. So I have these 2 like big rabbit ears. And my weaving wire is coming out of the back here. I don't know if you can see it. The back here. And I'm going to weave the same weave on these 2 wires. So we'll flip it around so you're not confused. I'm going to weave these 2 wires, but remember that the inside wire is where the extra coiling goes. So that's where I start. That's 3 around that one, and then 3 around both, 3 around that one, 3 around both. Now, this gets tough because you're so tight to the bead. So if you need to bring it out a little bit, because you're going to have to bring it up before you bring it around anyways, do that, because it's going to be hard to squish in. You could use pliers, I can get my thumb up in there, whatever you need to do that. And you're going to weave this until it meets at the bottom here. And as you can guess, yes, you're going to bring the weaving wire back up, back down, and back up, and secure this in nice and tight so this bead is really good. And these 2 will be secured at the same time. Pretty cool, huh? So let's get this weaving done, and then I'll show you how this sort of looks as we go back and forth, and then we'll figure out what to do with these wonderful decorative wires that are hanging at the top, and start our journey to the second bead. Okay, I'm back, and I've gotten, sorry about the weaving wire waving around. The 2 wires up here, the 2 wires done here, and you can see my weaving wires, it had the 3 times around the bottom, and there's the same amount, actually, 8 of the patterns on either side. So now I'm going to secure these 2 together, and the easiest way to do that is my weaving wires coming from and I can't see without my magnifying glass, so just give me 2 seconds here. Coming from the middle of the 2 wires. So I'm going to come down and bring it on the other side of the wire on the bead to start with. So that gives me some pull. I'm going to bring it back up between the two wires here. So basically, and in fact, it's wrapping around. So I went on the other side of that wire. I came down here and I'm pulling this. So I'm pulling this now so it's nice and snug. Pulling that here, and I'm going to wrap it around once there. Twice. Now I'm going to go back up the bead. Remember I told you we were going to take care of the bead to make sure it was nice and secure. So I'm going back up the bead, making sure I don't kink my wire. Really important at this stage. Okay, and I'm going to pull. Give it a good yank. So what I'm trying to do is get this settled, so that it's more flat against here. And I'm going to bring my wire back down that same hole. Oh, come on. There we go. Basically, I'm going just below where the wrap bail is, and I'm trying to find a space a way through. It looks like I have, but not in a place I want to be. Took me through the bail. That was not good. There we go. Found a hole. Pull that through. Come around the back side. I'm going to flip this over. And I'm going to come down and put this wire through the bead one more time. Now, if your beads aren't big enough to go through twice, through 3 times, twice is enough. This is 2 pieces of 26 gauge wire. It's, you know, not unless somebody's like spinning the bead and spinning the bead and spinning the bead, which is going to have other things in front of it. Realistically, you're not going to wear through the wire. It's, you know, pretty tough. I'm trying to straighten my wire out a bit here. See if I can get it in the hole one more time. And it tends to come out where it wants to, so this one came out on the front, which is fine by me. I don't really care. And I'm just watching to make sure when I pull it through I can see that it's going to kink the wire. So I'm going to undo the possible kink. I'm trying to prevent kinks. There we go. Okay, so what you have is, I don't know if you can see it, but they lay down really nice and neatly. They don't look like a big hot mess on either side, which is super awesome. And I'm actually going to cover this one with a little spiral on the top before I start anything. And then this here, I tend to take and wrap around both of these wires again. Now this is the point where I'm just putting it on the other side, if I can get it to go to the other side. This is the point where you can get a new weaving wire if you need to. And I probably would. I don't have enough weaving wire left here that it would be significant. I'm going to wrap this twice. So this secures my 2 wires, well, 4 wires together at this junction. Secures my bead really well. I have 3 passes of wire through it. Okay, so now I'm ready for my next part of my journey. So let me straighten these wires out. And I'm going to back out just a little bit because this is way too close. There we go. So I have these 2 wires here that I can do now what I like. My bead secure, my first part of my, you know, round pieces here. This one I did a loop and then came down. This one I'm thinking I want to do something up here, and then I'll figure out how I want to decorate with the beads later. So either side's fine. What I'm going to do is whatever I do on one side here, up here with, let's say I use this side and I make a little loop here and then come down. I'm going to use this side to make the loop on the bottom so that I'm equally balancing whatever I'm doing. Okay? And that just helps. So I'm going to bring this across the front and I'm going to just spin this whole thing while I'm holding it. So this is one of those moments where you sort of go, do I want to do it that way? I kind of, when I got to here, I kind of thought that was kind of cool. I could bring them both in towards the center, but I don't know. Bringing this out. Okay, so I like it there. And then I'm going to wrap it around the bead. Okay? So this one, when you think about this whole process as you're doing it. I'm going to actually mirror this on the other side, but when you're thinking about this process, you need to think about Celtic weave a little bit, and making sure that the same wire isn't always on the top and the same wire, other wires not always on the bottom, because what happens is then it becomes a play. If you only have this wire always on the top, it'll then come away from the top. So you have to think about that. So I started with my left this time, so I would start with my right on this section here. Okay. And always remembering which way to go to get them to match is always one of those things I have to actually think about. And they're not the same size. There we go. It's a little bit better. I know my fingers are in the way, but what I did was bring that around, and I'm bringing this over top. So I'm holding it here, and I'm pulling this over. So this is on the top here, so I'm going to put it underneath this one to be on the bottom here. Okay? And I'm going to bring it around. Now, this is your choice. You can bring it up and over the bead. You could cross it across the bead. You could make it beside the bead. I actually think, since this bead is not a spectacular bead, I'm going to bring it up across the bead a bit. Okay, so let's bring it right side up. Now let's get these wires out of the way a little bit. Okay. So keeping this equal is the next challenge. Whoops. Because things like that just happen. And you have dominant hands and non-dominant hands. So I'm sticking my thumb over top of this bead. And what I'm aiming for, first of all, is to see that this sort of spacing, and that makes a heart. I didn't do that intentionally, but that's cool. This is sort of equal. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down to the junction between these two wires and bring it around. I'm holding up here to keep these wires from moving. And I'm pressing pretty firmly, and I can feel it pushing against my thumb. That's fine. I'm going to bring this around and bring it out the bottom. So it becomes the bottom wire of the set of 3 on this side. And now I got to do the same to the other one. So I'm going to swing it around, because you have to move these stuff around to do this. Okay, and I'm going to bring it down and around and swing it across the bottom. And this becomes the bottom wire of this side. Okay, so there's my first move on this new piece. See where I'm going now? Everybody who's been a wire weaver for any length of time goes, yep, now these top wires become my new decoration wires. And these two I do a weave on for whatever weave I want for the length that I need to go around my second size bead, wherever the heck it went. And it's hiding, there it is. So now I got to work with this bead, right? So I need to get enough wire woven, which isn't very much, as you can see. These aren't huge, and that was part of what I wanted to make sure, is that if I wore this on a collar length, comes to my collarbone length chain, it was going to hang nicely and not end up in my cleavage. Does that make sense? You could have a longer chain and let it hang down below your chest if you wanted, but that would be up to you. So I'm going to do the same weave as this, except I'm going to do 2-2, because it's a little smaller bead and gives me a little bit more repetitions, and I'm happy with that. So that's kind of cool. So far so good. I'm quite happy with how this is coming along. So I'm going to do a 2-2 weave, and those of you who are newer, I'm actually going to use up this little bit of wire. I don't have very much, but I can do enough that probably I can get one side. I actually have to stop short of one side, because I'm going to need to be able to, I might have, nope, don't have enough. Okay, I'm going to end this, and I'll use this later for decorating beads when I put those pretty beads on. Because this is how I figured it out, because all of you are going to be asking me this. So if I do a weave, and I probably only have to go that far, it's going to use more than this wire. No problem starting a new wire, but I'm going to be pulling that new wire section And I don't want it to separate from the old wire section so that I have a gap here. I don't want a gap, you know, like let's say here because I added new wire. So, and then I have to pull it up and connect it again, the same way as we did with this one, right? So I want this to be nice and secure. So this little piece of wire, it's literally maybe 6 inches that I have left. That 6-inch piece of wire, I'll use it when I decorate with some specialty beads, wherever I decide to do that. Okay, so I'm going to take this wire off at this point. I'm just going to put it down below some other wires and then fasten it once. I'm just weaving it in and out of these wires that are here, and I'm just going to bring it around and wrap it around twice, and then I'm going to cut it off. And the reason I'm just making sure it's secure before I cut it off. And then I'll start a new wire. And again, this inner wire, the shortest wire now, because this is the one we did all the decorating with. See, it's a little shorter than the other ones. That wire is going to be the wire that I do most of my weaving on, and then the lighter, holy part of my weaving, you know, there's spaces on the top, is going to be up here. So do whatever length of weaving you need to go around your particular bead that you're doing, whether it be a crystal or whatever it is that you're deciding on. And then I'll be back and we'll go through that process one more time to show you how to do that piece. Okay, a couple of things. I'm back and I've this amount done on this weave. A couple of things you need to know is where these two wires are. You had one above and one below. It's going to want to lay like this way rather than flat. So don't hesitate to take your pliers or whatever you need to sort of flatten out so that you get the profile that you'd like. Okay, and I just use my side of my finger or whatever I can to bend around. Again, you can use your pliers, you can use your fingers, your thumb, whatever you'd like, so that you get sort of the right spacing for the bead. And you can see that that's pretty well at the halfway point, and I'm happy with that. So time to put the bead on. So now you've got a ton. I've got a big long piece of weaving wire. You've got the 3 wires on this side, which I'm now going to move up because I need to get them out the heck out of the way. And I have the 2 wires here, and then I have my decorative wire there. So, you know, got lots of wires going on here. So again, I need to string on the bead all the way down to the end of my big piece of weaving wire. I use what I call a wingspan, which is both arms stretched out as far as you can, either direction, with the spool in one hand and the tip of the wire in the other hand. Okay, so one of the things I'm watching for when I do this is that I want to make sure that when I put this bead on this wire, that this is going to be sitting at the bottom, and I'm not going to have massive amounts of space of wire showing on either side. Some's going to show. There's no way around it, but okay, so now I need to put my wire through that funky hole again. And there's always a funky hole, just because of the way the wires cross. And if I pull them too tight, then I can't find the funky hole, but that's okay. I can just, see, I'm just moving these wires because I pulled them up, and I closed off my funky hole. There's my hole. Don't get it caught around all your weaving wires. I have a big piece, so I'm going to pull it out the back side nice and carefully, checking that I'm not getting caught around my weaving wires, which I am, so there we go. I'm actually sticking my thumb in because it actually helps to, before I get there, to make sure that the weaving wire is not too, ta-da! Okay, so there's where I started my last piece of weaving wire, and I'm going to cut that off. Get it out of the way. And I just cut it off like I do on every other project. If you watch my other videos, I just bring it down so that I know that I'm not going to be able to feel that. There's a way that I do it. And please, if you like these types of videos and you want to see this new creative stuff, like, share, subscribe. I love to hear your comments. The other thing is, if you use this method, and I don't care if you sell jewelry with it and you use it, but mention that you learned how to do this particular style for me, from Manny's Making, so that people will come and check me out at least and know that you learned it from me. That's all I'm asking for. The rest of it is, again, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want with it. That would be, you know, that's up to you. So now I need to do the same process again. My weaving wire is back up top here, so I need to move this one out of the way. Now these two bottom wires are starting to get in my way a little bit, so just gently curve them. Don't be mean to them. Just stroke them like a nice kitty cat. And, you know, move them out of the way. Because again, having smooth wires through this whole process is kind of important because you're showing off your wires. So I'm going to weave them the same as I did this one, and I'm going to attach again, and I'll come back when we figure out what we want to do with these two decorative wires. Once I have this weaved, attached, you know, run through the bead again, and the weaving wire out this end, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now we need to do something with these wires here, and I am thinking, first of all, I'm going to cross them over themselves on the front here. Let's see. So what I'm doing is I'm looking, trying to figure out, I'm thinking, you know, thinking Celtic, right? So I'm actually leaving these wires, I'm pushing them so that they're, see how these ones are loose on the sides? They're not actually loose, they're part of this weave now, but they look like they're loose, like they're just free flowing. I personally don't want them super tight, but that's your choice. You can do whatever you like. I'm going to move these out of the way a little bit. So do I want wings on this one or not? This is when I wish I was live because I could ask you guys and you would tell me. Let me see. So when I come back up, I can do a curl in there. You know what? No, I think I'm going to just keep it nice and simple. Okay, so I'm over on with this wire here, and I'm under with this wire. So when I'm going to bring it around the bead. Whoa, that was a big bend. So I'm using my thumbnail and sort of doing this with my thumbnail and my tip of my thumb. It's the smoothest I can get wire. And it's one of those things that I've learned, and I've tried tools, I've tried lots of other things. Now one of the things you need to be careful of, if you space these nicely here and here, is that you keep that spacing. So let me just make sure I'm keeping that spacing. Because when you're pulling, your tendency is to pull in, right? So, you know, I'm just curving it. I kind of like that, sort of, these all having something sort of in the middle. Okay. I'm really liking that a lot, actually. Okay, so remember how we have to bring it around the back to make it the bottom wire here? So again, I'm holding my thumb, making sure I have these the way I want them over top of that middle one here, and I'm going to bring it around the back. And I'm actually, see how it's loose here? I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can get it up. It'll focus for me. See how this is loose here? I didn't jam this in as tight as I could, see? I want that to be loose, and then I'm bending it down like that. So it makes like this little buckle on the side, right? So I'm going to put some gems in here, I can already tell, and a couple of gems up in here. So at the crosswalks at the moment, but it may change. So get the weaving wire out of the way now that I've wrapped it around this wire 6 times. Silly girl. There we go. So this becomes the bottom wire on this side. So the only thing you need to do is, once you get it the way you want it, is that you need to bring it alongside these other 2 wires. So this is, all 3 wires are together again. So now I got to make this other side match. So again, I'm holding my thumb, double checking on the top that, so you can see it, that it's as symmetrical as you can get it. I'm bringing this down, but I'm not trying to, I don't know if you can see, I'm not trying to squeak it in tight. I'm just literally letting the wire bend itself. Watching this spacing here. So if I have to push with my thumb, I can, so that it doesn't come out of spacing. And now this is where I'm going to need to pull a little bit to get it to match the other side. Pretty good. Not completely, but I got to come down this way anyways, so let's pull down. Okay, I'm happy with that. So again, if you need to take your thumb and bend it a little bit, you can. So again, you're bringing the 3 wires beside each other again. And guess what we do next? That's right wire, yes. And just make sure, because sometimes they can cross over each other. This becomes the top wire. And you're going to weave on this one. And, how do I want to do this? Straighten these wires while I'm thinking. What did I do? What did I do with this one? Yeah, I just did the same weave as I did on here. The 2-2 weave. I actually think I'm going to air it out a bit, so I'll do a 3 on this bottom wire that's closest to the bead, on either one of these bottom wires, and then 2 around both. So I'm going to do the one side, attach the bead, do the other side, attach the bead, and we'll come back. Because then we get to do the fun bottom. Okay, so the last bead is affixed, and it's all ready to go, and I've wound the weaving wire, and I've just taken the weaving wire and moved it out of the way. I don't know if I'm going to need it. Depends on what I plan to do. So I'm going to show you how to do sort of the more pointed end, and then you can choose to do whatever you want here. You could do a spiral one way and a spiral the other way and then bring it back up, or finish it off, whatever you'd like. So I'm going to just separate these out a little bit. So I'm holding it in my hand like here, and I'm not wanting it to stick down too long, because it adds to the length of the piece. So that's one of the things. I think the other one was a little bit on the long side. So I'm just taking my, okay, so it's my finger width, which is, let me see, because somebody's going to ask the measurements. So that's about 1 centimeter, same as you would cut it off to do a curl. And I'm sticking my pliers in, and I'm going to give it a bend. And then I'm going to bring this other wire, and I'm going to give it a bend so it lays right alongside. This is a little harder to do without having, I don't have skinny pliers, super skinny pliers. And I missed it just a little bit. Okay, I got them together. So you want them, 2 of them together, and then you bring this around. I'm holding them both flat beside each other, and if they're going to behave, I'm going to bring this around, bring it around. So it double backs on itself. See how I'm trying to develop the point here? And this is really tight. I've made this one really small, so. Okay. Ta-da! I have a little flattened loop. And I'm going to bring this right around so the wires are sticking out the same way they were when they started. Be careful, because your wires will want to separate. They'll want to, as I'm bending 2 wires, you can bend 1 wire at a time. I don't do as well when I do that, because I tend to mess up. So, and it's more of a round than it is a point, so I'm gonna fix that. Maybe I'm just gonna leave it as a round, but I need to fix this outer wire because it has a little bit more of a point. So I'm pulling the outer wire. See how this is more round here now, and this is more of a point. So I'm just gonna take that curve, and I'm just gently working it out. Didn't quite come far enough. So this is the hardest part of the whole thing, to be honest with you, is this little end at the bottom to make it look symmetrical and look lovely. So I'm going to straighten that out a little bit more there. Okay, so this one, the wire does not want to go in, so it's going to get that. I'm okay with that. I think it looks quite cool. Okay. So now you need to decide what you're going to do with all the wires. This one here, I need to bring down, or I can bring these ones up. I'm thinking I could use these to decorate further up to give it a little more life. So I'm going to use the bottom ones. And again, this is how you want to do it. I'm actually going to take this one wire. I'm holding on to this bottom piece here, and I'm taking this one wire and I'm going to bring it around the back side here. And the reason I'm doing that is because it helps to fasten this off. Actually, I think I'm going to bring both of them around. I like the way that that looks. So I have 2 wires on that side. So now I'm going to bring these over this side. And again, I'm holding that and pushing against that so that it makes sort of like that little knot look on the front. I don't know if you can see that. You have a little bit more of a knot look on the front. And I definitely need to tweak this because this is not laying the way I want it to at all. I'm not happy with it. And if I really don't like it, I can hammer it. Hammering covers a multitude of sins. Okay. Now you got to remember you have one coming from the front and one coming from the back. So they're not on the same plane. So if you want to do anything, you have to take it and bend it a little like that to bring them both on the same plane, and do the same opposite way with this one. So I take it and bend it and then push down so that they're on the same plane, so they're level this way. If I don't see if you can see it, see how they're more level now, so they're coming out of the same point. Otherwise, when you go to do whatever move you're going to do, it can mess up. So well, I need to fix that, so I'm going to do a loop with both of these, or with just one of them. With one of them. Okay, so I'm going to take this one. It's on the top here, so be careful of the plane. Remember I told you about the plane? And I'm going to bring this up and over here. And I'm going to take the one on the top here. Now I have to bring it up to match the same plane. Okay, so I'm bringing it up way farther than you think I should, and then bending it that way first, and then up and over this way. And this takes a little bit of muscle and futzing and whatever. Now I don't know if you can see, but this is not level. The one's coming from here. See how this one's coming from farther back than this one is? So I'm going to have to bring this one up. Actually have to tweak it in. So I'm going to take it and hold on to it up here. And I'm going to tweak it in with my pliers to try to bring them closer to the center. Now see how you have this extra little piece, and that's because it was on the top. Those are not the pliers to be doing this with. So this is where you have to, as I said, the bottom's the worst. Trying to get it so that it looks like it matches. There's the one. Now why can't I get this one to be nice to me? Hopefully you can still see me. I'm just working now, trying to get this to do what I want it to do. Bringing that in, that's better. So they're a little closer to looking the same on the bottom here. Doesn't have to be exact because I'm now going to cover it with a spiral. I'm going to take a spiral and make a little spiral loop here on the side. Because I don't like the bottom here. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And again, I have to remember which direction I need to go. So that one went that way, so this one's got to go that way. Nothing worse than doing it the wrong way. Oops, maybe not. Okay, so that went that way. This one's got to go this way, yep. Ta-da! 2 little loops on either side of the bottom. Take my pliers and Now I could have done this around the pliers. I'm using the pliers to move the loops where I want them at this point. Now that one's tighter than this one, so loosening it up a bit so I can get my pliers in there. That tells me it's tighter than it should be. And I need to tweak it that way. Now you got to remember they are, how do I explain this? One's over, one's under, that kind of stuff, so they're not going to be absolutely exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to bring that across there, bring that across there. I like that bottom a little bit better. Still not crazy about this loop in the middle here. I think it's this end here that's not wide enough that's bugging me. And I get my fingernails in there and anything else I can get in there. Too big. Okay, bring that down and under. And bring this one up and over. Fix the plane on this because it needs to be the same plane as that one. So it's down and under. So that makes a little point there that when I pull. Now I got to figure out what I want to do with it now to bring it back up and over. So all I'm doing is thinking my way through it here, so if you're wondering what I'm doing, because I'm not crazy about this, and I actually think I'm going to end them both there. So I've wrapped one over the other and the other one over the other one, so I don't know if you can see. So this one here comes over this way, and this one comes over this way, and they sort of can lay behind themselves. So if I put them back on the plane where they lie behind themselves, I can cut them off and tuck them down. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to come back. Okay, so I've got this where I'm happy with it. The two ends are cut off and made loops out of, so that nothing sharp is sticking out, and they're quite solid. They're not going to move. I have my weaving wire sitting out here, so I'm thinking it's a good time to add some beads. So I'm going to do that. I'm taking my string of beads here, my fire polished beads. Let's see if I can get one side out. Maybe not. There's one side out. And I'm going to take, I think, 3 more. No, maybe not 3. Let's see. Let's move these out of the way so they don't end up finding their natural habitat, the floor. And I'm going to put some of these on, and I cannot see the hole, so I'm going to just fiddle my way through finding the hole. Doo-doo-doo, it's here somewhere. There it is. I got a glimpse of it. Ah, there we go. Chasing beads. This mat's horrible for beads, but it's really good for wire because it saves my desk. So I'm just working on an office desk. Ooh, I like. That gives that all a reason. So that whiting piece there, so now I just got to figure out where to fasten it to make it work. And I think I want it to go from this to this. Nope, too far out. Okay, so, and of course the beads are wiggling around like crazy. No, it doesn't take it on the right plane. So I'm going to have to find somewhere to wrap around this, to wrap around in the right plane, and I need my magnifying glass to do that. So I'll be back when basically I'm going to find somewhere in here that I can poke this up through and secure it so that they sit. I want them to sit just like, sort of like that, but level across there. And once I get it secured, I'm going to cut off my weaving wire, and then we'll come back to deal with this, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking of doing. First of all, I made two little spirals sort of here in the center, and I just need to get them straightened out so they're laying flat, because right now they're not. And I added those 3 beads. They look really cool. And they're all sparkly and pretty. And then, so when I'm doing this, I have to make sure I keep these together. So I'm thinking of taking this wire here and actually feeding it up under and through and under this wire. So let's give it a shot. And I'm going to try to keep it as round as I can. Try not to bend it too terribly. I'm just trying to be gentle. And this is pretty work hardened at this point. It's been around and around and around a few times, so it's getting a little tougher. So I want to go under here and under there. And I'm going to pull. Try not to get tangled up with the other wires. And I'm pulling. I'm pulling. So I'm thinking I need a little bit of volume out to the side. I don't know about you. Now, I don't like it coming out from there, but I can fix where the volume is with my pliers. Whoops, don't do that. Okay. So I kind of like that, if you just take a look at that by itself. I kind of like that. So now I got to repeat it on the other side. I'm moving these wires that I've curled out of the way for now. And I'm going to bring this around, making it, bring this around, making it rounded, nicely rounded, so it'll go through here easier. And now I need to go under. And if I can get it to go there, there we go. And I'm going to put it over that first wire that I took around. I'm pulling through gently, pulling through gently. I don't want to totally mess up my wire. Ooh, I like. Okay. I like. So I need to bring this up. Again, take my pliers. I'm going to tweak this and bring it up a little bit. Try to keep them the same amount and the same distance. Making them look, I really like that. I like that. It's really cool. Again, this is completely different than the last one, so it's kind of like Create With Me Day, in the sense that we're doing one of these. But I wanted you to see that basically it's your imagination that limits you. You know, you can do as much or as little as you want. I'm actually going to hook these around each other because I don't like the way they're sitting. So I'm lifting this up and hooking this loop around this loop, so that they're sort of intertwined. You know, that whole Celtic thing again, remember? So I'm just pulling it over, pulling this one over. Ta-da. Okay, much better. So now we have this cool little section here with the two little loops. I would like to probably put just one bead there. So I would wire wrap that with one of those scrap pieces. Remember, I have a piece that I just finished cutting off. So I would wire wrap, put that in there. And now I need to do one last piece. Woohoo! I need to figure out what to do with these two, so. Whoop. This is developing a life of its own. I like. But not, I'm going to need it more round. And then I would just bring it around the back and finish it off here. So I'm going to do something like that with both sides of these, making sure that these two little loops stay where I want them to be. And wire wrapping with a bead will help. And now I just need to figure out what to do with this. Just moving that out of the way. I think I'm going to try and pattern the pattern that's already on there. Yep. See, I'm patterning the pattern that's already on there. I'll have to tweak that. Do that with this side. Patterning the pattern that's already on there. And that also gives me like a little caged weaved area here. I don't know if you can see it, but see how it's kind of cool? But this one I need to take and put underneath another one. So this one I'm going to need to go underneath this side piece here, so that it's interwoven. Does that make sense? And then I'm bringing it up and around. This I'm going to put underneath those two loops, and I will do the same with this, and then bring it around the back and finish it off. And then I'll just add a couple of gemstones, and I'll come back and show you the finished product. Well, I'm back, and it's completed. So we already had those three on the bottom before. I don't know why they're moved. Had a little trouble with this one, so it ended up looking more like a rose, and I'm good with that. Gave these, I'm calling them elephant ears, little ears on the side, and then I gave a bigger set of ears here, put 3 beads here, and 3 beads up in those loops. The two bottom ones, when I wrapped them around, I brought them up and secured them to themselves and to the edge, and then made a spiral. And the ones when I've finished here, one of them I wrapped around and into the bail. You can see it wraps around and into the bail, and the other one I made a spiral and sat that on top, so everything's nice and secure, not going anywhere, believe me. So the whole thing, just so you know, is, inches would be helpful. I'm holding it at the 0 mark for the top of the bail, so it's just over 3 inches long. So that's pretty small when you think about it for a pendant. That's you know, for a dagger style pendant, that's pretty small. So there's the one, and there's the other one, and they're completely different looking. And that's the, whoops, wrong side. That's the joy of this, is that you can make it your own.